What's up, y'all? Happy Saturday morning. Y'all are tuned into the book club. You know the vibes. Oh gosh, I am excited to come to a conclusion with our book, Power of Awareness. I hope y'all enjoyed the reading, and I'm excited to hear y'all's take on it. Obviously, y'all can touch on the last three chapters, but if y'all want to touch on anything that was a big takeaway, um, revelation that you had while reading or that you're going to be implementing as you move forward. Like all that stuff is dope. Shout out to Starbucks. That looks good, girl. But I'm excited to hear y'all's take on it. I know Mikhail is about to walk into a meeting and then I got to get going as well, so I'm going to tune into my phone. So we're probably going to kick it off. I know it's not normal, but we're going to kick this thing off for the conclusion of this book. And then we'll be reading next week. Start with Why by Simon Sinek. I believe Amber posted that in the PC chat or the PC book club on the app as well. So if you need more info on that or need resources on how to get the book slash audio, just reach out to us. We got you. But with that being said, Mikhail, can you kick us off, big dog? Going once, going twice. Sold. It's not. I don't know. Last night we talked about it. Okay, I actually can't. I didn't realize I'd be in the Black business meeting. Okay, no worries. All right, so Mikhail is unavailable. Um, Smooth. Well, I can kick us off then. Oh, I think Rigo called me. Hey, it's all good, bro. No worries. You just called, bro? Okay. My apologies, y'all. I got a text message from my roommate. Just want to make sure we're smooth. But I'll kick us off. So the chapters we read were 24, failure, 25, faith, 26, destiny, and 27, reverence. Wow, there's a whole lot to unpack here. I think one of the biggest things that stood out to me personally, is kind of like where I found myself in my life. And I'm not saying where I'm at currently is a failure, but on the outside looking in, most people would consider that to be. So I am not where I truly thought I would be or where I wanted to be in my life. And rereading this chapter, because I'm not gonna lie, some of the book as I was reading was frustrating because like I intellectually know this stuff. You know what I'm saying? I've through the years of experience in entrepreneurship, I have been blessed to be around people, resources, and books that have helped instill a lot of the concepts that the power of awareness was touching on. I just haven't read it in this way. I had to like, I always describe it as putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Never had the opportunity to like actually understand the grasp of how it actually flows through one book. So shout out Mr. Neville because I appreciated the structure of the book. What frustrated me was is that like I knew and I've been applying a lot of the principles, and then chapter 24 hit me in the face. Because failure, essentially he was like, it is possible that you either have had or will have a number of failures in this respect. And those who have like learned from any entrepreneur or any person of high fulfillment or significance, like they realize failure is part of the game and it comes with it. I think what was difficult for me is knowing that like I've in my brain imagined it, I've walked as if I've embodied the feeling, and I didn't understand like why I'm currently at where I'm at until I zoomed out and I had like a bigger eagle eye perspective. And I think what he touched on for me was the part where he said that the essential feeling of naturalness can be achieved by persistently filling your consciousness with imagination. So for those who don't know my current situation, I had to have an unexpected move. So now I got some roommates, and thankful to God for the people he surrounded me to help me out. I've in the span of the same 30 days, not even lost my vehicle. And the part-time gigs that I had like for supplemental income, both let me go at the same time. It's honestly wild. And I was confused. And a large part of where I struggled in was the fact that he was saying that if you do not feel natural in the imagination of what you're desiring, then what you want to be, you will not be it. And I was like, okay, that makes sense because in the times where like I see the vision of TGF and I see the vision of my life and my wife, my kids, the type of lifestyle we're actually pursuing and creating together, and those that we're impacting on a global scale, like I believe it with such an insane amount of belief. Like people laugh at me type of vibe. And it's all smooth. Um, I just didn't realize why, like in my current circumstance, I couldn't seem to like get a job for, I don't know, 60, 70 days consistent. Like, yo, I applied to like maybe 30 of them things. I got a whole degree on the wall. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, what is going on? And I think what he hit me with is that you must feel that with your imagination, all things are possible. And you must realize that changes are not caused by caprice, but by a change of consciousness. So, you know me with definitions, y'all. I just wanted to boop. I don't know if you guys, I've heard of a caprese salad, but I ain't never heard of caprice before. So I had to look this up. But it says a sudden and unaccountable change of mood or behavior. So he says, you must realize the changes are not caused by a sudden and unaccountable change of mood or behavior, so just your attitude, but it's caused by a change of consciousness. And I was like, yo, I think I had an epiphany reading Persistence a couple weeks ago or last week. Can't remember what when we read it, but I think it was a couple weeks ago. But Persistence was a big like key in the door for me because I realized then that even though, as he kind of like described in the scenario, I really liked what he talked about. Like you're chained to a heavy iron bench and you're told to run. And you're like, what are you talking about? I can't freaking run. I'm tied to this freaking bench. It's not going anywhere. But in your imagination, if you fully believe you doing so, then it becomes possible because your imagination of you running is completely natural. And I was like, damn, once I started really like going back to what it is I know, believing in that imagination and believing in like where I can be and the wish fulfilled, I was like, yo. And since then, y'all, like my state of mind has been a lot healthier. I was still like positive and doing the things I needed to do, as you guys see, but there were some days where like mentally I was going through it. I didn't understand like my current circumstances or the trials and tribulations that God had put on my place and the reasons why. And I had to remind myself it's not my job to understand. It's my job to really just accept, as he talks about in the book, to assume and fully believe with unwavering faith of the wish being fulfilled and it will be mine. So I'm super excited about that part. It was a big revelation. And then I want to touch on what my guy Mikhail uh, honestly texted me about this morning because we had a great discussion about honestly just like creation. We just have these crazy big talks. And one of the parts that he wanted to touch on was that the import and how they explain it. He said the important thing to bear in mind is that you have infinite free will in choosing your assumptions, but no power to determine conditions and events. You can create nothing, but you assume, but your assumption determines what portion of creation you will experience. Um, and yeah, like again, it was a great reminder for me in the fact that like everything we have, everything around us is already here. We cannot create nor destroy. We can just transform or transfer. So if we know that the life that we want is already available to us, we just have to assume, fully believe it, and walk in it, and it'll be given to us because of that. So yeah, I wanted to touch on that as well. And then the last thing is let's see. So two things, I guess. In terms of faith, right? One the scripture, I reference to it often in the Bible, but Hebrews 11:1, faith is not the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Um, And he says that it is in fact that creation is finished and everything exists that stirs you to hope. So my faith was strengthened. I've always had faith in God. Me diving in the word helped me have a greater understanding of that faith as well. But also utilizing and growing my wisdom of earthly things along with spiritual things helped me fully grasp that like what we have and what we need is here. We just gotta assume the role and grab it. And I think the last thing I really wanted to touch on is reverence. And he said that you are the I am that I am. You are consciousness. And I didn't fully agree with the fact that like you are the creator. I believe that we are gifted with the ability to create by the creator, if that makes sense. So that was just a little kind of like, I don't know if I agree with that type of vibe. But other than that, like I feel as though um as the book of wisdom 11:24 said, never wouldest thou have made anything if thou hadn't not loved it. So one, I just wanted to take the opportunity and tell you guys how much I love y'all and how I love this experience, um, this life, and the memories that we've created thus far together, the impact that we are co-creating together, and the environments that we are establishing with each other. And honestly fulfills my soul. It fuels me to know that like we can really just grow within love and lead with love and give love and receive it, and that like God is love. So as long as we have that reverence to it, then we'll always operate in it. And because we're operating in it, God is there. So I appreciate y'all for leading with love, man, and like being there, especially with this book club, because man, I think a lot of people on squad were sleeping on this one. I can't cap to you, and I pray we're probably gonna have to throw this back in the roto because I pray that somebody like with the urge gets this inclination to pick it up and read it because it's such a powerful one. But yeah, just remember, y'all, super powerful. Faith does not question. Faith knows. And when you find yourself in like your human flesh doubting or questioning, remind yourself of whose you are and who he has made you to be and who he's called you to become, and walk in it. I love y'all. So I'm gonna pass this thing over to Mr. Yeah, you know what? The ladies usually kick this thing off, so I'm gonna let Mr. Austin Averly get the mic, bro. I appreciate you, big dog.
I appreciate you, bro. I will not drop it. So, um, so yeah, so I love this book as well. It's very, and you're catching the recording and you did not read this book, you definitely slept on it and you better go read it because it's a very quick read. Chapters are not long, but it's full of sauce. So, um, just to touch on chapter 24, failure. So, me personally, I used to be very afraid of failure because obviously it's not a very good feeling. So, but I also used to think of it as I used to be very like what's the word I'm looking for? I guess very pessimistic is the word I would use. Because I did not think I was either good enough to succeed or that if I attempted something, I would probably fail. So, but now obviously becoming more aware and being on the journey that we're all on, um, failure is just part of the process. And really, the only way that you truly fail is if you give up. So, um, there are hiccups in the road. We do, you know, come across times where we don't succeed in what we do, but I would more so just call those lessons, as I normally have learned to do now. So honestly, I don't know. I guess if you want to call it failure, it's just all a part of growth. Because not every like great basketball player or football player or athlete, actress, act, whatever, not all of them are suddenly great at exactly what they chose to specialize in, in their life. So they definitely went through the failures, or the lessons, throughout their journey. So honestly, and getting closer in my faith as well has really just shown me that failure is not a bad thing. It's honestly meant, if you didn't succeed at what and at first, God probably planned it that way so that you could learn from it and grow better in it. So I guess a couple of things that I highlighted throughout this chapter. Um, Marcus, I think, touched on the first one is the fact that it does not feel natural to you to be what you imagine yourself to be is the secret of failure. So, throughout this book, it has talked about the law of assumption. So, and I think obviously that was the biggest constant throughout the book is you need to assume already being what it is that you desire to be. And I think all of the greats, whether they're in the business space, whether they're athletes, whatever, have already, that's what they did. They envisioned themselves being the best or being in the position that they desire to be in and constantly thought about it in that state of mind and didn't doubt that, all of the things that they went through, all the struggles and the blessings, that they went through were not in vain and they were for a purpose. And, but they kept at the forefront of their mind, exactly who and what it is that they wanted to be. So, um, I think that's where I struggle sometimes is because like life be lifing sometimes. So uh I do struggle with constantly like keeping that version of myself in the forefront, but I've gotten better at really blocking out the outside factors from really determining where I'm going. Because as we've all, I'm sure, realized that life is a little short. So whether it seems long, but so I just see it as if you're really not if you're not doing anything to progress, if you're not doing anything to grow, um, by I know we've all probably heard it. It's just by default you are regressing because the world is ever changing, and so you got to constantly be in growth mode, as I would call it, um, to get to where you want to go. So how? Oh, and then I think he touched on this one too. Maybe I'm mistaken, but he said, "How can this feeling of naturalness be achieved? The secret lies in one word: imagination." And obviously, to to see yourself in as the person that you want to be, you obviously have to um, imagine it, and it all starts really in the imagination. And I don't know if I realized how powerful the imagination was until we started reading this book, um, because like yeah, I knew obviously everybody knows about the imagination, but mostly as we grew up, it was like this fantasy world, where it was like I don't know, fairies and and wizards and things like that. That's kind of the lines of the imagination that, when I was growing up, that's kind of what it was. Like things that you couldn't humanly possibly do. But like now, as I've grown up and then after reading this book, it's like the imagination is really where everything stems from because it's where everything is created in. So um, then let's see here. And I think, okay, so then the last thing I'll touch on with that chapter is that he says, and remember that the time it takes your assumption to become reality is proportionate to the naturalness of its being. So the faster that you can make it become natural, in your own mind to like feel like that the person that you already want to be and feel in yourself that you're already there, the faster that it's actually going to come to fruition. So, um, yeah. Anyway, so then the next chapter on faith, obviously super important, and not a lot of people. Well, I shouldn't say not a lot of people, but the majority of the world does not operate in a state of faith, I would say. Um, a lot of people, so let me find where it is in this chapter. Uh, okay, so this is one of the points I wanted to touch on is he referenced Hebrews chapter 4. He said, "Unto us was the gospel preached, and as well as unto them. But the word preached did not profit them, because not being mixed with faith in them that heard it." So you can hear and feel all these things that you want to be, or like hear, um you can hear all the information and all the knowledge and whatnot, but if you don't have, and dream big, you know what I mean, even in your imagination you can dream big essentially, and be want to be, um this amazing person, or this amazing athlete, whatever it is that you are desiring to be. But unless it is mixed with faith, and like Marcus said, faith is, where is it, faith does not question, faith knows. So, um it is not, faith is not, hoping. Obviously it does come with a sense of hope, but faith is knowing that it is already done, and you are already that person. It's just going to take you moving your feet and trusting the process that God has for you. um so honestly, that was a honestly, like, I love this book because I didn't even think of a lot of the book, or a lot of the stories, because I've heard a lot of the stories that he's referenced, and a lot of the verses that he's referenced in this book before. But I've never really thought of them in this sense. So it was definitely eye opening, an eye opening book, to say the least, as far as how the word is referenced in proportion to our lives. So, um, and where it says not mixing with faith means to deny the reality that which you desire. Hence, there is no profit or attainment possible. So if you don't have faith, and you don't fully trust in the fact that what you're doing, and like the life or the person, the image that you built in your mind, can actually be a reality, it's never going to happen. So, um, faith is definitely something I have struggled with up until like this last year or so, um, when getting closer to God and stronger in my faith personally, because I've always just kind of been well, not always, but like most of my life, I've been the person that just kind of prayed and hoped, but didn't really have any faith backing that it was actually going to happen. It was just like, Lord, I guess hopefully it happens. That's essentially what my prayers used to be, but now I pray with more intention about actually knowing that if I fully trust in the process, whether it be in the timing that I want it to be, it will happen. So, and if it doesn't, then it wasn't meant for me, and I've come to that that understanding. But destiny, chapter 26, obviously destiny is just says destiny is that which you must inevitably experience. So, um, it's really, I guess, the way that I look at destiny is just essentially like the purpose that we are all put here for, like the end. Not, I wouldn't say, I guess, necessarily the end, but like the person that we are made to be is essentially our destiny. Like our the life that we were meant to live is the destiny that we were meant to achieve and meant to live. So, um then the last chapter on reverence. Um, Honestly, this one was short, but it was like most chapters are in this book. But it was one of those ones where I don't know. I kind of had to reflect back on it a little bit because, or a little bit more, I should say, because I do discern, I guess, what he was saying. I guess as far as the fact that he says you are God and you are I am that I am and you are consciousness and um it's not necessarily saying we are like God, like him, but we are God because the Holy Spirit lives within us. So we are a part of him. And the the Trinity is the three in one. So if you have the Holy Spirit living in you, obviously you are a part of God. So and we are created beings, even though our lives are already planned out by him. We still He gave us the free will to choose the reality of how our lives will go. Because obviously we all have had choices and made some good and some not so good choices, um, which ultimately determined, excuse me, the paths that we kind of took to get up into this point. So, and honestly, as much as my journey sucked in the moments, um, well, for the most part, I should say, up until the last couple of years, um, I would, and it's crazy to say this, but I would not have rather had any other journey because I've experienced a lot of things that were, in most people's eyes, probably terrible. Um, but at the same time, it was needed to make me, I guess, into the person that I am now and help me to have the knowledge and awareness to grow into the person that I really have always wanted to be. So, um, yeah. So then I guess the last thing I'll say on this chapter is, I think Marcus also touched on this, but it says the knowledge that your creator is the very self of yourself and never would have made you had he not loved you must fill your heart with devotion. Yes, adoration. And it says it is when your feeling of reverence is most intense that you are closest to God, and when you are closest to God, your life is richest. And um, for those people who may tune into the recording, or most, maybe you don't necessarily believe in God, or maybe that's not your yeah, I guess your belief. I will say I've gone through a lot of things in my life, and like I've touched on before, and I've come to the conclusion that there is no other way that I would have gotten through it if there was not a God, if there was not the God. And because I've seen a lot of things where it's just unfathomable that they would happen the way that they happened in my life, and I've also like reflected on when I've been happiest, and that's literally been the times where I was closest and strongest in my faith. So, um, yeah, for anybody who's not really like that strong in it or like doesn't believe in it, I just encourage you to take a different perspective and become more aware of the things around you. And like, yeah, I don't know. This book was definitely one of them ones. I know I've heard of it before, but I'm glad that we got to read it because honestly, it made me, no pun intended, it made me very aware of a lot of things. So, um, yeah, anyway, I'll stop my my little rant for now. Amber, you can go, girl. You're ready.
Hey, everyone. Um, this book was crazy. I loved it. I loved every single chapter, every single revelation. I mean, when it comes to the entirety of the entire book and like this experience that we've been on together, going through all these chapters and the principles, one thing that I've been focused on throughout the past couple of weeks of us reading it is really understanding the power of like my self-concept and what I was assuming about myself, and how what I was assuming about myself was creating everything that I was experiencing. And so, it was just making me more particularly like just aware of my lack of awareness of my power. And Um, and so that's one of the biggest things that I got from it. And so recently, in the past couple of days, like reading the past couple of chapters, the biggest chapter that stood out to me was failure, the one that most of us have been talking about. And I was just talking to Imani about this yesterday, and how in that chapter it says, the essential feeling of naturalness can be achieved by persistently filling your consciousness with imagination. So I highlighted the essential feeling of naturalness. And whenever it started to talk about that, I started to realize that there are things that I am confident about and that I feel natural about, like in my life. And in those areas, um, I excel in, like I don't even think about. And I started to think about different areas of my life, and I could feel like the limiting beliefs coming up. And so, for example, um I know I'm very confident in my work ethic, and I'm very confident in my ability to learn things. And so I realized, like, when it came to like corporate America and like working a job, I know that I could do that. Like I know that if someone tells me what to do, I could figure it out and do it. And so when it came to the job that I have now, I don't really think about it like at all. I don't think that it's hard. I don't think much of it. I know that I could just do it, and it's not my priority. Like my priority is my business. And so I don't think much about it at all. And so I was talking to Imani about how, because I think about it like that, that's the reason I experience it like that. Like I work like 40 hours a week, but I can get all of my work done within like 30 minutes of like an 8-hour shift. And I I started to realize that I could do that because I know that I think that I could do that. And so I just do that, and I started to realize like how natural it was for me to be able to do that. But then when I started to shift my mindset towards my business and the work that it takes to run my business, I could feel all the limiting beliefs come up. And so what I was talking to Imani about is like my posture towards my business, towards the work that it takes to learn all of these things and to apply all these things and build all these things. I have to change my posture, my assumption. I'm assuming, a part of me is assuming that it's difficult because of limiting beliefs. Like I'm the first person to ever do it. There's so many things to learn. Um, not all one person can do it. Other people have teams of people who could do it. And so I started to realize like those limiting beliefs were coming up. So I was already assuming that it was hard and that's difficult and that it takes a long time. And so that's the experience that I've been experiencing. And so what I was thinking, I was like changing my posture, and I'm like, I'm going to start using more of the power of my words to be able to change my posture towards my business. And so like just saying things like running a business is easy, and learning how to like I know these things. I know how to do marketing. I know how to create content. I know um how to run my social media. It's easy. And it's not like in a way of just like dismissing it, but it's just having a different posture of like, I could do this. This is not difficult. This is not something that's impossible to do. And the more that I assume that I am good at these things, like I'm good at marketing, I'm good at social media, I'm good at leading other people, I'm good at recording content, like all these tedious things that I feel like are a challenge to do, the more that I change my posture about it, the more that I change my assumption about it, the more that my experience about it will change. And with that, I started to also think about just like the power of vibration, of like whenever you are in the right vibration of something, that's when you start to feel that inspiration. Because don't get me wrong, like when we're on our entrepreneur journey and our journey in general, there's a lot of things that we have to do that we don't always feel like doing, you know, like we're not always motivated to do our DMOs every single day, especially for our business or like for ourselves sometimes. And of course, you know, we just do it and we push through. But I started to learn that we can move ourselves into a different vibration whenever we do it. So we do feel inspired. And when we move ourselves to a higher vibration and then move from that higher vibration, the work that we do is so much greater and so much more powerful than if we just force ourselves to do it. And the whole time we were doing it, we had this vibration of like hating it or being frustrated about it. So that's one of the things that I was thinking about. And so just feeling like more natural about it, like just having like our posture. That's what I started thinking about, like when it came to like failure and all of the things. And then another sentence it said is whether or not you are disciplined enough to sustain the required state of consciousness. Disciplined enough to sustain the required state of consciousness. So when I thought about that sentence, I broke it down a little bit. Discipline enough to sustain the required state of consciousness. That's equivalent to holding a feeling. That's what that means. When you sustain the required state of consciousness, you are holding a feeling. You are holding a feeling of the vibration of what it is that you want. So if we are manifesting $10,000, we have to move ourselves into the feeling, into the assumption of, into the vibration of already having it, and then hold that feeling. Now, holding that feeling does require discipline, because I mean, if it's not real, you know, sometimes it's hard to not to not be excited about it or like be there for a long period of time. But that is where we have to strengthen our emotional muscles. That's where we have to use the power of vibration. And that's why doing our DMOs, like consistently reading, consistently working out, consistently showing up to the calls, keeps us on a high vibration. It keeps us, it adds fuel to our discipline to sustain a required state of consciousness to what it is that we are creating and that we're feeling for. And the word discipline like really got me, because I know that, because we all know the things to do, especially us, like us specifically here on this call. This is not our first time like in, you know, personal development or working on ourselves. And so we know this stuff. We know that if we do all the things, we, you know, create momentum and we stay on a high vibration. And after a while, you know, we're human. There's times where things get hard and we don't want to. Like, I know even for me, even though I know this stuff, I study this stuff, I teach this stuff, there's times where I just don't feel disciplined, where I know my vibration is low and I'm like, girl. But that's what we got to do. We gotta raise our vibration, or we're not gonna experience what we want. Okay, let's see. I'm going through my notes. So the second thing that I really liked that was very powerful for me in this this chapter was when the Emerson quote, "Man surrounds himself with a true image of himself. Every spirit," okay, let me read it over here. "Man surrounds himself with the true image of himself. Every spirit builds itself a house, and beyond its house a world, and beyond its world a heaven. Know then that the world exists for you. For you, the phenomenon is perfect. What we are, that only can we see." This is where I was like, all that Adam had, all that Caesar could, you have and can do. Adam called his house heaven and earth. Caesar called his house Rome. You perhaps call your house a cobbler's trade. Like, I just got it. I saw it. Like, Caesar called his house Rome. He said, "I am emperor of everybody, of everything. This is my house. This is what I rule." I don't know. I don't really know Caesar, to be honest, about that. But but I understood, like, we are who we say that we are.
Hold on, do you know who Caesar is though?
I mean, I just said no, Marcus. Like,
Okay, I'm just making sure. So let me add context. Caesar was the king of the Roman Empire. So when Rome occupied majority of the Middle East and even Europe over a large stretch of the land, Caesar was the king.
okay.
So like he went from just like where Rome is at currently to expanding and having reign over a large amount of the globe. So that's who Caesar is.
Okay,
And
I
they
knew
call
he
it
was
the-
like a big king. I just know all the
Yeah,
details.
yeah. No, yeah. So it's a Roman Empire. Anyways, I just wanted you to know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My phone is gonna die here in a little bit. But yes, so we are who we say that we are. So for us entrepreneurs out here, when don't use words like my little business, because then that's what you're gonna experience. I got big business over here. Billions of dollars are coming in, y'all. And when we assume that and we operate from that and we remind ourselves of that and we act like that, that's what it means when he was talking about of acting from the wish fulfilled of already being done, of being in the state, operating from the state of it already being done. And so like one thing that I was talking to Imani about, like when it came to my business, because I was thinking about different areas of my life where we do this. Because one thing that I do want to point out is like the law of assumption, the being able to create is something that is natural for us. This is not something that we have to work at doing. What we have to work at doing is what we are thinking about and how we are applying our power. Because we're already assuming things. Like we're good at all of this stuff that we're doing. We're just doing it in different ways. Like I'd be really real with y'all. I was talking to my friend the other day, and everybody in my family has always like smoked weed for a long time, and it's just always around, like to a point where like I don't really have to pay for it, no one really has to pay for it. And I was thinking about the laws that we were talking about, and I realized that it's just because it's so natural. We assume that it's going to be around so much collectively as a family that it's always here. So these principles are always in work no matter what, it's about, but where are we applying them? So when it came to my business, one thing that I was talking to Imani about yesterday was that I've been really practicing the muscle of really operating with the end in mind. Like when it comes to building out my program and building out my mentorship program and everything, I'm really operating from a place of like, I need to automate this system because I'm getting ready for hundreds of people coming in. Like right now, yes, it's just a few of us and I'm able to do a bunch of things because it's just us. But if I can't think that it's always going to be like this, because it's not. I have to already act now of like, okay, if 100 people came in right now, I can't be sending out 100 welcome emails or doing all these things like specifically my way, like this. I have to automate this. And so that's just an example. And then the last thing that I want to say that I can think about right now is when it does come to reverence, when it comes to me, it's just really understanding the power of who you are. And one thing that I've been thinking about, I've been on, is really understanding the concept of the truth of who I am. And so for a while, I personally used to be afraid of, saying that I am God and breaking that barrier. But over time, over my studies, I realized that was holding me back, that there was a fear of me seeing myself as God, seeing myself as an extension of source energy, as an extension of the power of God, as a physical manifestation of somebody who carries the essence of God within her. And so the more that I've studied this, the more that I've seen this, and like just the way that Neville said it, like this is the secret, is something that I've really, really resonated with. And the more that I do start to see myself as as a powerful creator, who has the ability to create, who has the ability to use her words, the easier that this process has been for me, the more that I've been able to really step into my power and really see how, okay, I really am creating everything. My assumption of my life, of every single thing, is directly correlated to what I am experiencing. And even when when we pray and we ask for forgiveness and we do our spiritual work and we connect to God, all of that comes down to really connecting to ourselves and forgiving ourselves and allowing us to continue to move forward, and allowing us to really see ourselves for how powerful we really are, and giving ourselves the grace to let go of things that are holding us back, of limiting beliefs that are holding us back. It says, the knowledge. it was the last sentence. Our deepest feelings are precisely those we are least able to express. And even in the act of adoration, silence is our highest praise. And so, I don't know. It's just our deepest feelings are precisely those we are least able to express. Honestly, that line kind of like messed me up a little bit, to be honest. To be really, really honest, it was really deep, and I think I need to think about it way more. But learning more of this kind of study has really helped heal myself and my journey and my relationship with God. I've been able to really disconnect from beliefs that were holding me back, towards actually feeling peace and feeling that love of God that everybody was talking about. And, you know, our own connection with God is something that, like, we don't have to explain to anybody, that we really can't explain to anyone else. Like, it's our own individual experience, you know? And it's just really, like, part of my purpose is to really just help people connect to God in their own individual way and have that, like, that own conviction. And this book has helped me do that. So everyone watching the recording, read it, because it's good. So, all right, I'm done, guys. Thanks for listening. I'm gonna kick it off to Imani.
Okay. Happy Saturday, everybody. I am in Houston, so please excuse the makeup. Everybody on the recording, don't judge me, okay? Since we're all shouting out people on the recording. So yeah, me and Amber went in depth about this a lot, and I know it's really hard to hear for some people to be like, "Oh, I am God." Marcus, you probably can hear me, but I did actually disagree with you disagreeing with what he said, because we do have the power of creation. The moment, which kind of goes into what Austin said too, it's like all kind of tying together, how that moment that we imagine what exactly we want, that is the exact moment of creation. There's no, like, for me, there's no outside like influence, or like somebody else created it. Like, I totally agree with Amber. I am God, because God is me and we are it. Like, we're all reflections of each other. So I cannot, it's like contradicting the book, which, I mean, everybody can have their own opinion about the book. It's really based off of like what you believe in. And like Amber said, helping people get closer to God in the way that they actually want to, the way that they need to, the way that will help them connect with source, because not everybody connects with source the same, which is totally fine. So I do believe that, like, once we imagine it, it's created, it's done. Then we assume it, we have faith, and then we move in that way. And that's how we're able to get what we want. But it's already created because we did create it. We are He. Like, God is not just some man in the sky, first of all. God is more than that. It's like, I know this book and a lot of people reference God as a man, but that, I feel like God is a non-binary, non-gender specific person that has these, that does not have gender roles inflicted from society. Because why? That is why. Anyways, so my whole journey with God has been like, it's ever growing. So right now, like I've said on book clubs in the past, that I am on a journey of self-discovery and like religious discovery as well, even though I don't really care too much for religion, but I do want to find other ways to get closer to God, which is getting closer to myself, getting closer to my higher self. And that is my awareness. That is where I'm at. My consciousness has reached this level, and it is in part to this book. Like, there's other things that have been tying into it. So I find it to be really amazing that I have created this situation for myself, and it has come to fruition where I can be able to talk to people about it. And it's controversial for some people. Yes, oh, I'm God. It's a scary thought to have, but it's like, but is it though? But is it really? How? When we It's like we're all the same. It's just like a tapestry. That's like the simplest way I can put it. A tapestry. We're all a big giant picture, and we're all woven into it. But every stitch creates the picture. Once a stitch pulls out, there's a hole, and you need to fill the hole. So put a stitch back in, type thing. So let me go to my notes. Failure. That one hit me very hard. It hit me hard because he said that if it is not, your desires are not happening, it is because of a error or weakness in your subconscious or in your consciousness. And I was just like, excuse me, like, I didn't need you to read me like that, first of all. And second of all, damn, like, how deep does that go? I know, like, I'm always going to reference society, but society does put a lot of pressure on us to be these very specific people and have these roles that do not really make sense for every person. So not everybody's ready to do all the things. Like, not everybody's ready. Not everybody needs to. Some things are a slower pace, and the consistency is the key to everything, not necessarily going so hard. So for anybody who always feels like they're needing to be this person, throw it out the window, because you can be whatever you want to be. And that's the power of awareness, knowing that this journey never ends. Energy is transferred, it never dies. So once we die, our energy just gets transferred somewhere else. I definitely do believe in reincarnation as well, because this journey never ends. So there's no like pressure to be perfect. So failures really like are seen as negative. They're really positive, because when you have these failures, it creates this like this gold way of thinking to get you to this next level. So even though he said the error or weakness, I was like, dang, like that sucks, because that's true. Like, it's a weakness inside of me that I just can't get through, or maybe I'm just not ready to, and I need to move through that and learn and get that. So having the faith, which is awesome, because my name means faith. My name means faith in Arabic. It's the seventh principle of Kwanzaa, which is faith. So it's like I was kind of born to have this perspective of having faith at all times. So it's definitely helped me. But this book changed my perspective on what faith really is. And I was talking to Amber about this yesterday, because I was like, dang, I'm over here thinking that I do have to have faith in something that's going to come save me. Like we were talking, this big moment that's going to make this huge difference. And that moment never really comes. Like, there are huge moments in our lives that like make a beautiful difference, but it's the little moments and like slowing down and realizing those little moments are our heaven. That's our heaven. Getting to heaven is more so for me like having that peace in your heart, having that peace in your mind, soul, body, everything connecting, because you're not worried about anything else that the world has to offer. All the scary frills and thrills that are pressed upon people. Hell is when you never reach that consciousness and you're always closed off. You never get it. And that's terrifying. Terrifying. I would hate to be on a Saturday morning not knowing any of this. It just doesn't feel right in my soul anymore. So that's my heaven. My heaven is knowing that all these small moments, all these moments like book club and being with you guys and having that community, that makes me feel alive. It keeps me going. It gets me to where I want to be. So this book definitely changed my perspective about how am I supposed to live. And the truth is, I can live however I want to, and I don't need anybody to tell me how I should and should not be, because I know, and my higher self knows. My higher self is a part of the he that we're all referencing to as well. It's like all like a giant tapestry, a web. So Amber, when you said about Rome, I thought that was like, it's so, I know we talked about it, but it's so funny to even think about it like that, because this one person was like, I don't care what nobody else says, I'm about to build a huge city that lives on to this day. Like Italy, the Vatican, that is all like pieces of the Roman Empire left over. So that's something that long lasting. But it can also happen on the opposite side too, with dictators. Like we see what's going on with North Korea. We see what happened with Hitler. We see all these people. Doesn't matter if you're good or bad, these negative things, positive things, whatever. If you have his goal or this desire, no matter how deep and dark it is, you can make it happen if you really assume that it's real. So that's a whole different thing. But it's not necessarily like limited. You can do whatever you want, literally. It's a little scary, I'm not gonna lie, but I think my biggest takeaway from this book absolutely is the fact that I am aware and I am conscious. So everything I see now is different. My perspective is very, very different. Like I can talk to people and I can hear this disconnect now, which is really hard. Like I can talk to you guys about it now and it's like, okay, cool. And I already know like we're all entrepreneurs. We're all putting ourselves in these positions of power for ourselves to get to our heaven. And it's not like we have to do something to get to our heaven. We really just have to be. And just be happy in ourselves and like make the conscious choice to live the best that we can. Like, okay, bet, I'll do it. So that's my biggest takeaway. Like my perspective is just different. I can't see the world the same. And now my consciousness is going to keep reaching these new and higher levels. Like once it's open, man. So, all right. So can't even drink like that no more. Like, damn, I can't even. It hurts. I don't want to drink. I don't need to drink, but whatever. Like, damn, for real? Okay, anyways. Let me not go on a tangent right now, but thanks for, inviting me into this because I feel really good about it. And I hope everybody can like really have that feeling of peace going forward and not being necessarily worried about do. Just be, people. Just be yourself. Be you. Do you. Don't let anybody tell you different. Don't let anybody rush you into what you want. Listen to your higher self. Listen to whatever power that you're wanting to just be. Do that. Okay? Bam. And is that everybody? Kelsey, I'm calling on Kelsey. Go, Kelsey.
Yeah, I heard you called on me last week too, and I was not by my computer, so
it's a redo. It's okay.
it's all right.
We'll let it slide, Kels.
Marcus, you just hopped off for how long? Don't even come off at me, bro.
I had a phone call. I had to take it.
Uh-huh. That's cool. No, I was super excited to read this book. I've read it a few times, but I think just where I am now, it was perfect timing in my personal development journey because it really a lot more things really stuck out and resonated, I guess. But I mean, everybody kind of touched on a lot of the things I was going to touch on as well. But with, oh gosh, where did we? Yeah, failure and faith, I think for me kind of fit together because I was the person as well who, for the longest time, I never liked getting out of my comfort zone, just simply for the fact of, I don't know if I'll be able to do it. Like just having that self-doubt, like initially of, I don't even know if I'll be able to finish it. So not even giving myself the opportunity to start because simply for the thought of failing at it. But in here, I mean, I know Austin Marcus touched on it too, but like failing is part of everything we do. You're not progressing if you're not failing. Nobody's journey is perfect. I mean, I wish that was the case, that you just kind of set out on your idea of what you want to do and it's all just smooth sailing. But I lost it. but once you know that consciousness is the only reality that is the sole creator of your particular world and have burnt this truth into your whole being, then you'll know that success or failure is entirely in your own hands. How I kind of interpreted that line specifically, then you know that success or failure is entirely in your own hands. And that kind of ties back into what Austin was saying too. It's wherever your conscious mind is at is whether or not is how you perceive that. Because like when I read that, I'm like, Austin and I are on that same frequency in that terms where it's like, yeah, you either win or you learn. You know, like I don't allow myself anymore to view those situations as failures. You know, you have to raise your vibration, raise your consciousness, you know, to know that if you whatever you're saying to yourself is what is. So if you sit here and say I failed, yeah, you did. But if you're sitting here saying, you know, like I didn't get the result I was looking for, but here's, you know, you take time to do that self-reflection and know this is where I can change things. This is where I can tweak things for the next time. And that's an important thing for me too, is so the next time I can change it. There used to be no next time. I didn't get the result I wanted, and that was it. You know, I didn't give it another go. And then yeah, that kind of goes along with faith. I don't know if it was just an easy verse for me to remember, but Hebrews 11:1 used to be my favorite verse just because it was so simple. And so having that in here to start was was super cool. But yeah, essentially, I mean, I won't go through every single chapter, but just kind of the whole breakdown of the whole book is you know, everything starts in your mind. That's why for me, tapping back into my morning routine is super important, just so, you know, I can start my days filling into myself and starting my days every single day on the highest, you know, frequency and vibration as possible. So yeah, everybody else kind of touched on everything. If y'all have the physical book, if you have this one, read that second part, The Awakened Imagination, because that is, sorry, my phone's going off, is super cool too. I'm bringing this one, bringing the book on the trip and going to be reading that. But yeah, Marcus, I was so ready to close this thing too if you didn't hop back on. So I can pass it back over to you, bro. I literally you hopped off and I was like, oh man, well, I guess I'll close this thing. But yeah, you can take it, big dog.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Yeah, I gotta go pick up my car. I got an oil
Always
change.
having the baton. Hey, no worries. I appreciate everybody having their insight and sharing what's good. I really love this book and I'm really excited for what's to come. Y'all say what's good to my sis. She said hi. Oh wow.
Shut up.
But I appreciate everybody actually sorry. I appreciate everybody really being tuned in and present and growing together, truly. So like I said, next book is the next book is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. The information's in the book club app. And then I already updated all the events, so you'll know exactly what chapters and what parts we're reading. This book is broken down in parts and with like 2 or 3 chapters per. So plan accordingly. Let me know if y'all need anything. And as always, you know what I'm saying? We'll see you at the top. The bottom is way too crowded. Much love, y'all. Y'all have a blessed one. Peace.
Wait. Did you
What's good?
say, are we supposed to have any chapters read by next Saturday?
Yes.
Which ones?
Intro and part 1.
Okay. All right.
But it's in the book club event. You'll see it.
All right. Thank you. Sorry.
No worries. Y'all have a good one. Peace.
Bye bye. Can't get off. That's